Unit 12, Gateway. Studies in psychology have reported cases in which competitive incentives resulted in lower task effort, and their focus was on the psychological underpinnings of the reduction in motivation. For example, competition presents an inevitable conflict between the motivation to achieve one's personal goal and the desire to maintain good relationships with others. When the maintenance of interpersonal relationships is important, with their counterparts in particular or with others generally, competitors experience an internal conflict that can harm their desire to achieve their goal and taint the good feeling brought about by winning. Exline and Lobel found that the perception of oneself as a target for upward social comparison often makes people uncomfortable. When they believe that others are making envious comparisons with them, people feel uneasiness, distress, or sorrow. Feelings of guilt, an emotion generally associated with high motivation for goal achievement, lead to weaker motivation and performance in the pursuit of competitive goals. Consequences of this emotional state include lower task motivation in a competition, and preferences for more cooperative and altruistic outcomes, such as diminishing the significance of the outcome or sharing the winner's reward. Exercises. Number 1. Our brains evolved when food was scarce. Thus, we are compelled by our genetic heritage to eat whatever and whenever possible. Animals have a tendency to eat a great deal of food when tasteful food is readily available. In addition, we also subconsciously prevent others from taking our food source. We defend our access to tasty food when it is within easy reach and is at risk of being consumed by other humans. Studies have shown that humans will eat more when more food is available, even when the food is stale or otherwise unappealing. Furthermore, even if you point out to others that the food is stale or that they have eaten more than their fair share, they will continue to eat. Our biological drive to consume tasty food to completion outweighs any opposing cognitive or motivational factors. Even after we have gained a lot of weight, our bodies want to gain more. Number 2. The world is shrinking in many ways. For better or worse, satellite television, mobile phone networks, and the Internet have created conditions for instantaneous and friction-free communication. Spatial distance is no longer a decisive hindrance for close contact in new, deterritorialized social networks or even virtual communities have developed. At the same time, individuals have a larger palette of information to choose from than they previously did. The economy is also increasingly globally integrated. In the last decades, transnational companies have grown exponentially in numbers, size, and economic importance. The capitalist mode of production and monetary economies, in general, have become nearly universal in the 21st century. In politics as well, global issues increasingly dominate the agenda. Issues of war and peace, the environment and poverty are all of such a scope, and involve so many transnational linkages that they cannot be handled satisfactorily by single states alone. Pandemics and international terrorism are also transnational problems, which can only be understood and addressed through international coordination. Number 3. You could think of fluency as the brain's attempt at making a fast and intuitive truth judgment, as opposed to a more deliberate analytical assessment. Of course, the fact that the brain processes familiar things more fluently isn't a bad thing in itself. In fact, in all likelihood, it's probably a useful and adaptive heuristic or rule of thumb in many situations. It would be absolutely exhausting for your brain if you had to process every bit of information completely anew. You know that 2 times 2 equals 4 when you read it. This has been repeated to you many times. You can process it fast and fluently. The real problem is that something can be true or false for many reasons other than familiarity. If I were to ask you, for example, how many animals of each kind Moses took with him on the ark, most people would say 2, despite the fact that in the biblical story, it wasn't Moses on the ark, it was Noah. This doesn't matter to your brain, though. It's just predicting familiar answers. Number 4. Targeting and segmentation are of prime importance to media strategy. The increase in the number of media channels and vehicles, and the consequent fragmentation of media audiences, mean that target groups of consumers are both easier and more difficult to reach. They are easier to reach in the sense that audiences are fragmented into narrow interest groups that are served by thousands of special interest magazines and TV channels. If an advertiser wants to reach, say, trout fishermen, sports car enthusiasts, or TV drama fans, there are specialist publications and TV shows that are ideal vehicles for targeting such narrowly defined audiences. But consumer groups are also more difficult to reach because agencies have great difficulty in categorizing audiences into target groups that are sufficiently large to be workable for general advertisers. Being able to target trout fishermen is useful if you are selling fishing tackle, but not for general fast-moving consumer goods sales that require varied target groups. While trout fishermen probably have other consumer interests too, media vehicles that cater for one hobby are of limited use to most advertisers.